Step into a world of magic and limitless possibilities with me, your host, Katie Soul. I'm not just your average podcaster. I'm a former Fortune 100 exec who dared to escape the rat race and embark on my own mystical journey. Together, we'll discover that a mystical life is not something you stumble upon. It's a life you consciously create. Join me as we explore inspiring stories of extraordinary souls who fearlessly pursued their dreams and unlocked their inner radiance. Welcome to my world, where magic awaits and your light shines bright. Hello and welcome to the Mystical Living Podcast. I am delighted to have Kate Northrup here with us today. Kate is a mega entrepreneur. She's a beautiful human. Her heart is as big inside as it is outside. And you're going to get to experience her high vibe energy that she brings into every room that she touches today. I'm so delighted to have you here, Kate. But let me ask you, who are you really? How would you introduce yourself?
Hi, Katie. Thanks for having me. I'm so happy to be here with you. So today, I am really somebody who is here on Earth to research, explore, adventure, and connect, reconnect, like help women reconnect back with their power, their inherent power. And that shows up in a lot of different ways through writing books and running programs and the way I mother and the way I'm a friend and all of that. And so, yeah, that's who I am.
Beautiful. And before we dive in deeply to all things Kate and money and friendship and living a mystical life, Kate is actually going to do our practice today to take us out of the mind where the human self resides with the fears and the worries and the to-do lists and the juggling, and into the heart where the divine self resides, where our intuition and our inner knowing and that deep guidance comes from. And Kate's going to take us through a really beautiful practice that I have only ever learned from her. And I'm excited for all of you to get to experience it today too.
Amazing. So this practice is a nervous system healing tool that I learned called havening. And what I love about this practice is it can be done really anytime. So many nervous system healing tools that I use kind of require privacy or a little more space. And this one really doesn't. It can't be done while you're driving. So, well, is that true? Yeah, you could use one hand to drive and one hand to do this. Okay. So the practice, and I love how you said it, takes you out of your head and puts you into your heart. This one really signals to your body that you are safe, which in many ways just automatically puts you in your heart. And so take your hands and put them together like you were in prayer position, and then start just very slowly rubbing your hands one over the other as though you were putting hand lotion on, very slowly. And just feel the sensation of your skin. Notice what happens with your breath. If you want to push up your sleeves so you can expose more of your forearms, that's a great idea. And you can take the motion of one hand over the skin of the other arm. You can go all the way down your forearm. You can go all the way down the other forearm. There is something really powerful about the proprioceptors of the skin-to-skin contact. But if you were wearing a sweater or something where you can't pull up the sleeves, it still works. And then you can take your hands and cross them over to the opposite shoulder, and you can add in the motion of rubbing from shoulder to elbow on your upper arm, as though you were cold, but you're doing it very slowly, rubbing up and down over shoulder to elbow. You can extend that motion all the way down. So you're coming back to hands touching palm to palm. Then you could reverse it palm to palm, palm to inner wrist, palm to forearms, do a little rubbing there, and then back up to the elbows. So, 30 seconds of this is going to activate your parasympathetic nervous system. 3 minutes would be phenomenal. And I'm just wondering, Katie, what are you noticing as you're doing this in your body?
I'm just noticing how calm I feel. And it's so interesting. When I first learned this from you, I remember it differently. And so I've been doing it totally differently than how you just described it. And I don't know if that's how I've adapted it or what. Probably I've just sort of took it in a new way. So I'm excited that it feels like a new version of havening for me too.
That's so cool. And there are all of these tools that, like, essentially our bodies will gravitate towards practices that are very healing for us when we're open. And so if you have a different version of it, I'm sure it's wonderful.
Totally. Well, thank you so much for taking us through that activity today that just taps us in and calms us. And what's so cool and why we start every podcast this way is that it only takes a couple minutes to really change our energetic state for the entire day, for the entire week, for our entire lives. The more and more that we can bring these simple practices of just quieting that mind and going into our heart, we start to slowly move from human to divine. And I'm so grateful for this new tool for our community today. So let's dive in. When I think about you, Kate, first I think about just a beautiful, glowing, gorgeous human, beautiful mom, partner, friend. And second, I think about money. And you've really become known for a relaxed way of thinking about money. And I think this can be so valuable for all of our listeners to understand a little bit more about what is relaxed about money. As I'm sure many of our listeners have had that feeling of like, maybe not havening and the tight hands as you go to log on to your bank account and that feeling in the pit of your stomach of, will I ever have enough? So tell us, how can we make money relaxed?
So first of all, we have to identify the fact that we've been conditioned into the lie of scarcity and the lie of separation. So relaxed money starts with healing the lie of scarcity in ourselves and healing the illusion of separation. And so the lie of scarcity says that there's not enough to go around. And what the data actually tells us is there actually is plenty to go around. So we have enough resources on the planet for all of the beings to live a really good life. That's actually the scientific data. If you want to know more about that, I recommend reading Heather McGhee's book, The Sum of Us, and also a lot of Buckminster Fuller's work.
We'll put those in the show notes.
Okay, great. So just know with your left analytical brain that there's enough to go around data-wise. And so a lot of people will say, oh, there's plenty to go around and the universe is abundant. And that can feel like spiritual bypassing in a world where it is clear there's inequity.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying there's not inequity. We do have a distribution issue, but fundamentally there's enough to go around. We just need to redistribute it. Interestingly, the lie of scarcity leads to hoarding and gripping, which is the very behavior that results in inequity. Because when there are certain folks believing that they have to hold on to as much as they can and hoard as much as they can and not let resources pass through them to others, then other people on the planet end up not having enough. But the problem is not that there's not enough. The problem is that if we believe there's not enough, we hold on
Mm,
instead of letting it flow through us.
mm. And at the end of the day, money is energy, right? Just like we're made of energy, money is energy, and energy is meant to flow. So
Energy is meant to flow just like water.
just like
Money,
water.
anytime you want to like get into a more true relationship with money, think about it like water.
Mm.
Think about how would water want to be in this situation? How could I support this substance to be like a healthy body of water? And that's pretty much going to be your answer for whatever financial situation you're in.
Amazing. Okay, so we're going to just channel that energy of water when we think about our finances. I do a funny little thing. I don't know if anyone else does this, but you know how you can name your bank accounts, your various accounts? I name them things like grounded security and prosperity so that I really, when I'm logging into my bank account, I am going in with this intention of, okay, this is really the meaning and the essence behind each account that I hold and where I want to give and where I want to save and where I want to feel secure. And it's a little shift. I do it with my computer passwords too. I don't know if that's just
I
a
love that so much. My sister started naming her different accounts after different goddesses. So
Ooh.
she had like her household account was Hestia, and then different like her beauty account was Aphrodite. Like, not that you would have necessarily like a whole account for that, but anyway, regardless, depending on how you manage your finances. So these things have power. Our words have frequencies.
Mm.
So when you have a bank password that's an expansive financial goal or an affirmation, or for a very long time, my passwords were way too simple because, it's the 90s.
Totally.
But they often had the word abundance in them with
Mhm.
specific finance, whatever it would be. And so, knowing that our bodies respond to frequency, and we are energetic beings, but our energy does take on the form of matter because of the frequency at which it's vibrating. And so, even though matter is an illusion on some level, on another level, we do live in human bodies and we can touch them and they feel certain ways. And biochemically speaking, our emotional state and our energetic state are very interrelated. And how do we trigger different emotions? Through different thoughts that we think and different behaviors, of course, and certainly our beliefs. But what we're coming to know is that our beliefs also and our programming also lives in our tissues, it
Mhm.
lives in our cells, and some of that's not conscious. And it never will be. And it doesn't actually matter like what the thought or belief or even experience was, because sometimes it's pre-verbal and sometimes it's ancestral, through epigenetics that it has just been passed down to us, certain fears or limitations or blocks or contractions. And so to have a relaxed relationship with money, we need to understand how to shift the way our body responds to our money, not just the way our mind responds to our money. And when we can unlock on an energetic level and an emotional level and a biochemical level and a nervous system level, which by the way, those things are all related, then we can get into this state where the default is relaxation, regardless of the external financial scenario.
Mm.
And that is true power. When you can tap into a feeling of abundance or safety or relaxation that is independent of your external scenario, the ironic thing about it is when we can learn to do that, the external situation simultaneously matters less to us
Totally.
and changes for the better.
100%. And it
Yeah.
really does work. And when I think about you and I'm in your presence, you are relaxed, you're happy, you're energized. And I'm curious, has it always been like that for you? Or have there been moments in your life where you really had to shift those thoughts and shift those beliefs? And if yes, how did you do it?
Oh my gosh. So I run anxious. Um,
I
so
can tell.
my sort of like unconscious default is anxiety and feeling pressure.
Mm,
Um, and sometimes it's like a nameless, faceless pressure
mhm.
of there's something I need to be worried about and I'm not sure what it is. So I'm just going to worry in case. And I know I'm not the only one who's had
Totally.
that
Yes,
experience. It's very common amongst women, especially,
for
but
sure.
some men as well. And so I've not always felt calm and relaxed about money or really anything. I was on anxiety meds in college. I have struggled with insomnia my entire life until the last couple of years. And one particular scenario that was like an ongoing scenario that I'm at the tail end now of was that my husband has, and my business partner, same person, has really struggled from a health perspective. And so for the past 5 years, he has much of the time been debilitatingly ill with something called topical steroid withdrawal, TSW, or during that 5 year period, he also broke his knee once and also was hit by a car. So during that whole 5 year period, it was very intense. We also have a 5-year-old and an 8-year-old. And so babies, toddlers, potty training, sleep training, sick husband, man on crutches, not being able to walk, surgeries, and simultaneously going in and out of this feeling of the world is on my shoulders
Mm,
financially for my family. Like,
mhm.
if I don't show up, if I don't do everything that needs to get done, my children don't eat. I can't pay the mortgage. I can't pay my team. So I had a lot of evidence that there was pressure.
Yeah.
I had a lot of evidence that it was a good time to be stressed out and really need to apply pressure from a work and business situation, because we went in and out of scenarios where my husband wasn't able to make money in the way he had been able to when he was not ill.
And also, while you're in that state, I think society really and conditioning pushes us into this feeling like we should be stressed out. Because I've gone through some hard stuff in life too. And everyone kind of wants us to be in this bucket of stress because that's
Like, I
what they think we should be in because we have things that are considered stressors.
totally. And so the feeling overall, I mean, I am generally a joyful person. So the feeling overall is generally joy. However, the undercurrent was like a tremendous amount of energetic gripping and this feeling of like, I need to do more and I need to do more from a place of pressure. And then I had this moment where, so by the way, this was not awesome for our marriage, as you might imagine.
Yeah.
It was we've been in and out of a very dark time. I am happy to report that my husband is doing great. He's walking like a rock star, not running yet, but he will be within 6 months. And he's like largely very healthy. So it's great. Because sometimes I talk about the illness and people are like left like wondering, oh my God, is he okay? So he's totally okay. We're doing the best we've ever been. But during that time, it was just awful. It was like gears grinding all the time. A lot of the time I was like needing to go scream in the closet into a pillow. I felt angry a lot, very resentful. I was super short with my kids. Just not fun. And so we had this session with our therapist and David, and he asked me to imagine what it would be like if Mike came home and was like, "Hey babe, I just made $10 million. So, we're good for like a really quite a while." and you don't need to do anything. And David was like, okay, so go inside and feel into what that would be like. And I was so shocked by what came up. I expected, joy, elation, relaxation. And I was like, what I'm feeling is I'm feeling dead inside and I feel flatlined.
Oh,
And I was like, oh shit, okay. What does that mean? And after unpacking it for a bit, I realized what it meant is that I was using stress and pressure as a stimulant to fuel my life.
wow.
And I didn't know who I would be without it. And so I was so tired. I was so tired. I was so burned out, which was very embarrassing because I wrote a book called Do Less, which is about avoiding or healing burnout. But I just had to admit that, I was I was exhausted and I had it. And I just really didn't have anything else to give. And so I decided to do an experiment. And that experiment was to give myself 90 days or a certain amount of money that I felt comfortable going in the hole. Like we all have these set points.
Yeah.
And for some of us, it's like, I just had an amount that I felt comfortable spending of our savings that I was like, okay, it wouldn't be the end of the world. Right. And so and I said, I'm during this 90 days or up to this amount of money, I will just give myself permission to relax and I will do an experiment and see what would happen if I just relaxed and coasted and did way less than normal and watched TV in the middle of the day instead and just chilled out. And what happened was we hit all our financial goals and the revenue and the profit of the business has continued to increase ever since. So I never really needed to stop doing the experiment.
Amazing.
So yeah, that's been my own journey recently in the last, 5 years about stress and money.
Amazing.
Is that I realized without the stress and the worry, which I think we've been conditioned to believe are essential ingredients, that you have to worry about it and you have to be stressed and feel pressure about it. Without those ingredients, our finances improve dramatically.
Yeah. And it's so fascinating too that we go through these experiences in life that get to challenge our beliefs and get us to upgrade in ways that we never thought possible. Similarly, for me, in a different way, I had worked starting when I was 15. I always had more money coming in than going out from age 15 on. And then all of a sudden, I decided to become an entrepreneur. And for the first time in my life, I had more money going out investing in building a business than I had coming in. And while my mind kind of understood, okay, this is a part of building a business, my body did not. And my body was like, no, I didn't feel safe and I didn't feel secure. And so it gave me this really beautiful opportunity over the past year to really understand what is safety to me and to know that I am innately safe in this physical vessel. And we do all have these opportunities to up level, even when it feels really scary and it feels new and it feels different. So I'm so glad that we get these life experiences, even as hard as they are, because they show us a new way. And sometimes they even create new businesses, new programs, new ways of being in our bodies and in our lives, which is incredible. So tell me, I love to ask this question, and I ask it to everyone that comes on the podcast, and it's, what lights you up? And I ask it because I believe when we follow our light, we really have the power to illuminate the world. And I want to see everybody walking in their light. So what lights you up, Kate?
Researching lights me up, learning new ways of thinking, new perspectives, new ways of being, putting together disparate topics and information to create new bodies of work. That really lights me up. So, I mean, learning and exploring and being curious about new things and then talking about them with people who are equally as excited, or teaching about them with people who are hungry. Those, I mean, a lot of other things light me up, but that's like the biggest through line.
Cool. And what I think so cool is that while your programs might not really on the surface showcase energetics and frequency and vibration, you actually teach a tremendous amount about some really esoteric concepts. So tell me a little bit about how did you come to understand this more spiritual side, and how do you weave that into your business?
Melding the 3D and the 5D is essential, and I am particularly good at it. I think because I grew up in a household with two parents who have incredibly different perspectives on spirituality and energetics. My mom believes in everything, and my dad believes in nothing. And so, I mean, in many ways, that's a massive oversimplification.
True.
But, when I talk to my dad, it may have shifted now, but when I talked to my dad about a decade ago about what he thinks happens when we die, he was just like, I think you cease to exist and your body just goes into the earth and decomposes. And I was like, wow, that is just wild. So anyway, like, that is just, I laughed. I know that is true for some people.
Totally.
That's not what I believe. But anyway, so I grew up in a house with a mom who is very spiritual and was talking to us about tree divas and the spirit of the earth. And we did solstice ceremonies, and we did, so there was so much of the like ancient pagan ritual that was just part of my upbringing. Very cool. Yeah, very cool. So that was always there. And I remember when I was 14, my mom started, so my granny, who's like a total revolutionary, my granny passed 2 years ago at the age of 95. She had 10 great grandchildren that she got to have relationships with, which is so beautiful. So Granny turned the Northrup family onto Abraham Hicks in the 90s when they were sending out cassette tapes. So in middle school and high school, my mom would pick me up and we were like listening, with cassette tapes to Abraham Hicks in the car stereo.
So cool.
So anyway, I remember her teaching me, I'll never forget it. I was in 8th grade. She was teaching me the power of pure positive energy. She said, if you hold a thought that is pure positive energy for 17 seconds, it will change reality. Woo. And great thing about being 13, 14 is I was just like, okay. So I started practicing, and I started practicing specifically about this boy I had a crush on. And imagining us holding hands, or imagining whatever. We didn't end up together, which is immaterial. But I think the whole point is that, and I will just say, this is a bit of an aside. This is just like a manifesting aside. I did not understand. So at that time, I had an oversimplified understanding of manifesting, which I think is very common. And I treated it as though the universe is like a catalog, and I can just order what I want. Mm-hmm. What's actually true is that we are vibrational beings. Exactly. And every experience that we might desire also has a vibration. And so we call in what we are a vibrational match for, and it frequently does not match the picture we had in our heads. And that's why we have to be sensing below the surface and tuned into how it feels more than how it looks.
100%.
I did not belong with this boy.
Well, I think
but I manifested a lot of beautiful experiences that were a match to the frequency that I was desiring.
Exactly. Because so often in this manifestation world, you hear about the law of attraction. And that's really cool and it's great. But the law of vibration is really what's often missing is that we do have to become this vibrational match so that we can magnetize that which we desire because we're vibrating now at the same frequency. So it really
Yeah.
always comes back to us, right? You
It
know?
comes back to us. And the piece that I didn't know at the time, which I've learned subsequently, and I use way more than visualization, even though if you're a visualizer, carry on. But for me, I'm a non-specific manifester in human design. And so visualizing like is not really my tool, even though it's fun. It's fun to take like a trip in my head. What I use instead is more what you were talking about, the law of vibration, which is how can I create the yummiest feeling possible in this moment? Self generated, which is true personal power. And this is exactly the same skill set that we need to practice and master to become masters with money. Because
Totally.
that very same vibration, when we can learn to feel first safe,
Mm-hmm.
and then maybe even expansive, and then maybe even pleasurable or
Mm-hmm.
blissful, when we can learn to feel those feelings first, like we talked about before, then we're actually way less attached to what happens in the external world. But ironically, the external world tends to rearrange. So then all these opportunities and blissful experiences show up for us to just continue on vibrating in the same way as we had already self generated internally.
Totally, which is so amazing. And I want to just circle back for a minute to the specific and non specific manifestors. So, what Kate's talking about is in your human design. So, what's really cool about human design or astrology or gene keys, it's like these maps that tell us a little bit about who we are, why we came here. I'm into all the things. But human design is my favorite tool because it's really simple and easy to understand. And in human design, there's two different types. There's a specific manifestor and a non-specific manifestor. We could do a whole thing on human design, so we won't get too deep.
I don't know enough about it to do that.
I don't think either of us know enough about it to go. We'll get a human design expert on the podcast
Yeah,
soon.
you should totally do that, and I'll come listen.
I'll call somebody in. So, what's cool though is that most of the population is actually specific manifestors. You and I are both non specific manifestors. So, understanding where you fall can be really helpful because some people do really well with that visualizing the white picket fence and the feeling associated with that image, and others like Kate and I, we do really well just getting into the frequency and the energy of what we're calling in.
Yeah. And so, when I have friends, so our mutual friend who introduced us, Sarah James, she's probably a specific manifestor because she would always be asking me, like, what's your vision? What do you want? And I would get so annoyed and be like, I don't know. And then I will say, I had the life that I had always visualized. I had the beautiful house in Maine. I had the kids. I had the husband. I was living exactly where I always thought I would. And then life changed and things shifted dramatically for a lot of different reasons. My husband's health was a catalyst, but there were a lot of subsequent events that led to this. And then I found myself living on a 41st floor high rise in Miami in a life that looked nothing like the one I thought I had manifested. But what was fascinating is like the life that I was creating, though it didn't look like what I had thought, it felt really true and it felt right, but it didn't look quote unquote right, which is the same thing, honestly, with when I met my husband. It felt right, but on paper, it didn't like look the way I thought it was going to. And I think that can really trip us up from a conditioning perspective, in a culture that is obsessed with how does it look as opposed to how does it feel. And then even when we lean more into the 5D manifesting world, we can still kind of be obsessed with how does it look as opposed to how does it feel. And then social media and all of our visual mediums. And so tapping into the feeling and learning how to feel what we're feeling, because it's okay to not feel good,
It
by the way.
is. And it's
This is
important.
not just about feeling good all the time.
Yep.
And how do we use all of our feelings to alchemize our energy and become literal walking magnets and tuning forks for more of what we desire?
Totally. And it is that magical. So, is this something you have a new program launching soon? Not new, but
It's newish. It's a year and a half in.
Yeah, called Relaxed Money. So, tell us, how do you incorporate all this cool energetics into your work around relaxed money?
I do, because relaxed money, the state of relaxed money is in part an energetic state. And so we start with the inner work, and we do half of the program is the inner work, half of the program is the outer work. So the inner work begins with emotions, your money beliefs, your money story, your mindset, your frequency, and your nervous system set points around money, and really learning to work with those things so you can shift your money reality. Because what happens is people are like, okay, I'm going to get it together with my money, or I'm going to go out and make all this money, and they can do all the right strategies and it can work for sure.
Totally.
But I know a lot of people who end up making a lot of money and still not feeling prosperous.
Yeah.
And that is a damn shame, because if you have, again, we're back on, it's not about how it looks. It's about how it feels.
Yeah.
And what I want people to be able to experience is a state of actual abundance.
Yeah.
And actual abundance comes from wholeness. It comes from a deep core of relaxation.
Yeah.
And when we run our businesses that way, when we run our careers that way, we do make more money. And I do teach how to do that in the class, but you got to do the inner stuff first if you want all the external strategies to be sustainable and keep working over time, as opposed to what I often see happen, which is people like go for it in all the 3D ways, and then they don't have the energetic container to hold it, or to actually experience the joy that hopefully would come along with expansion and continuing to get deeper and deeper on your soul's path.
Totally. And I think understanding that why is so important too. So somebody may have a big, exciting money goal, but without understanding the why, why do you want that? It can be sort of a mismatch vibrationally, because maybe we can attract that money in, but if we don't really know why we want it or need it in this 3D world, sometimes it can just kind of then fall away. And I've seen that happen with people too, where they attract it in, but it just sort of dissipates. So having a container that's really clear has always made sense to me in this geometric world, just a shape that really can hold that why. And I'm curious, Kate, what is your why? What's your why behind all of this?
Well, I mean, in a very oversimplified version, it's just like, I want to make the world a better place.
Yeah.
And I know the capacity we have as humans for tremendous joy and tremendous meaning. And I think that the purpose of being human is to fully live. And so many folks are not actually living because they are allowing money to be their source. Yeah. And source is actually our source with a capital S. And you could call it universe, you could call it life force, divine energy, you can call it God, whatever you want to call it, but it's source. It's like where we came from, and it's where we're going. And then in between, we forget a lot.
We do.
But I am here to keep remembering myself and to keep helping other people remember.
Mm.
And in this holographic, smoke and mirrors reality, which is like so weird, that is all kind of pretend anyway. We do live in a money economy. We live in a capitalistic society, and money is essentially, it is pretend. So that's really important. When you said money is energy, that is true. So money is a system that we humans invented to trade value for value. And value is energetic. It's ephemeral. It's like, what even is that? It's what somebody values is something that's important to them, which is an energetic and emotional thing. And it's varied from person to person. It's completely subjective. And so knowing that money is a system to trade something ephemeral that you really can't hold is important to know that the whole thing is a game.
Yeah.
And when you learn the rules of the game, you get to have a lot more fun with it and a lot more lightness with it. And there's so many layers here. Obviously, I spoke to the layers of inequity and systemic oppression, and all of that is also happening. And so where I like to come in is supporting people to shift the levers over what they do have control over. And what we do have control over is our perspective, is the choices of our behavior, is where we choose to spend our money, with whom, who we choose to save it with, all of those things. And when you can actually activate those different levers of agency in your life, you really can change your reality in a profound way, regardless, again, of external circumstances. We all have some locus of control. And so that's what I focus on, is like, what do we actually have agency over?
Totally. And there's different energetics too. When you angel invest money with a beautiful entrepreneur that you believe in versus maybe a stock, those hold different frequencies. Not to say one's wrong, one's right, but they hold different energies and different frequencies and really make you feel different inside. And they both may have similar outcomes, but being conscious about your choices and investments, or, do you shop at the local coffee shop or do you go to the chain? Different frequencies, different energies.
Different frequencies, yes. And ultimately, money is to help us expand different aspects in our lives in a way that aligns with our values. So if you are beginning to align your spending or your investing and your giving with what really matters to you, with your values, that's what money wants. That's what it's for. And so energetically, it becomes so much more deeply aligned. And that's the flow that I was talking about, that money is a currency. It wants to flow in certain ways. And that flow is magnified and enhanced by getting clear on your values and then using your money in a way that aligns with that. And you'll notice tremendous amplification when you become conscious of it.
So beautiful. And I'm so excited to share with audience too that I'm an affiliate for Kate's Relaxed Money program that's launching soon. We'll put it in the show notes as well. And if you're really looking for a playbook, there actually are rules to the game. And that's what Kate is teaching in the class. And I'm so proud to be an affiliate of this work because it's transformative. It changes lives and it has a ripple impact beyond the people that are investing in Kate's class, because through their learning, they're able to activate through their investments, through their spending, through their teachings, even more and more people. And that's what I think is so beautiful. And I'm really grateful that you are the driving force behind this, because it really is changing lives. So thank you for doing the beautiful work you do in the world.
Thanks, Katie. Thanks for helping spread the word.
Absolutely. So as we close out today, Kate, will you share all the ways that people can find and get in touch with you? And then I'd
Yeah.
love to end with just a little maybe nugget of wisdom or something that you feel called to share with the audience today.
Awesome. So if you want to connect, definitely go check out the show notes and learn about Relaxed Money. And at Kate Northrup on Instagram is a great place to go. KateNorthrup.com is where all the most current things are. I have a new podcast out called Plenty, so you can come listen to me on the Plenty podcast as well, because if you're listening to this, you obviously like podcasts. So come join me over there. And a last nugget of wisdom that I would want to share with you is that our worth as humans is inherent and impenetrable. And anytime the conversation around money comes up, the conversation around worthiness comes up.
Yeah.
And when we begin to heal the lie of separation, we begin to realize that we are all extensions of divine energy. We are not separate. You and I are not two different. We are the same. We're made of the same thing. We're extensions. We are simply waves in the same ocean, but we are both the ocean.
Yeah.
And so when we tap into that through nervous system healing practices, through co-regulation in community, through connecting to our own mystical souls and divinity, what we begin to realize is that when it comes to money, it kind of like doesn't matter. And money is completely and totally independent of our worth, because our worth is infinite, inherent, and impenetrable, because we are just extensions of divine energy. And the idea, therefore, of asking, am I worthy or not, doesn't make any sense. Of course you are, because you don't ask, is a newborn baby worthy of love or care or safety? They are as close to the embodiment of God as we have in this lifetime. They pop right out there and you just can't help but be like, oh my God, it's so delicious, right? So that's who we all are. And so just knowing that your financial situation is completely independent of your worth, and your worth is infinite.
Yeah. What's so beautiful too is when you can tap into that understanding of your innate worthiness, you start to create new patterns in the field. I used to call them synchronicities. Sometimes I still do, but really think about Kate and I. I didn't know Kate a couple years ago. I knew of her. I knew of her work. But a couple years ago, I wasn't vibrating at a frequency that I felt worthy to record a podcast with Kate. But as I've worked on my energetics and really my worthiness, now I feel very comfortable because we've created new patterns in the field, and those patterns have now had this opportunity to overlap and for us to have this conversation today. So I say that just to say a lot can shift as we start to do this work. And Kate is an expert. She's been doing this for decades. She's grown up in a space that really cultivated an understanding of energy, frequency, and vibration. And she has a deep understanding of the laws of the universe. So I highly encourage you to go check out Kate's work. And I'm so grateful we got to have this conversation today.
Thank you, Katie. What a joy.
Oh, beaming you so much love. I'm grateful for your presence on this remarkable and captivating journey today. Together, we've delved into the realms of limitless possibilities and unlocked the secrets of our true selves. A mystical life is not a mere coincidence. It's a thrilling adventure that you actively shape with intention and passion. Remember, when you follow your light, you not only illuminate your own path, but you also radiate light to the world around you. The world eagerly awaits the magic you have to offer. Follow your light and let it guide you to incredible heights.